the French Revolution. The French Revolution started sometime in 1789 because the people, most people were starving and could barely feed their families. A lot of people there were in large debt, and a lot of people didn't have any money. Approximately 98% of the population was very, very poor. So, well, the society was split into 3 classes, or the 3 estates. There was the nobility, which was the second estate. I think I'm writing too thick, so sorry everybody. I'll just have to erase everything here. There were really 3 estates.
Also, can you make the triangle bigger?
Alright, so I'll make the triangle bigger if I can. So, there were really 3 estates, you see. There was the clergy, the top estate that consisted of the priest, the royal family, etc., etc. And then there were the nobility, the knights, and whatnot. And then there was all the poor people. And it's not just poor people in third estate. There was also a tiny bit of wealthy people who were merchants. But mostly the third estate was poor people. And these poor people were 98% of the population. At the time of what we're talking today, oh God, that paper ball didn't even show up on screen. Pathetic. Now I'm booing on the audience. Anyways, oh God, this is gonna escalate. This is gonna escalate. Yes, and so at the time we are looking at, the clergy had about 100,000 members. They had 130,000 members. The nobility had about 360,000 members. And the poor people had about 27 million members. So, the clergy and nobility in Paris were always living at the expense of the third estate. So, the third estate weren't happy about this because the second and the first estate acted like they were the kings and never got to do any work. They didn't have to do anything. They could just sit back, relax, and the third estate would provide money for them. The only way of partying, the only way of living was at the expense of the living of the poor. Third estate was delivering all the money. So you can see my point. And so the third estate wasn't really happy. So they decided that they could revolt. However, they didn't revolt just yet because France was still in economic ruin. And so the rich people who were already living off the backs of the starving poor, what do you think the rich guys did?
Increase taxes.
Correct.
I know.
They put taxes on the already struggling poor. were really unhappy. And sometimes the fighting of taxes even escalated to violence. And people were shot down and killed during these. That's not a pitchfork. Let me try again. Yeah. This sometimes even escalated to violence, and goons and muskets were brought with private tax collectors to hold off any poor people who were going to revolt or try and kill the tax merchants. And then, even there, natural disaster tore away their crops, and harsh famines and winter meant that most of their harvest was going to be in vain. So, most of their harvest was going to be in vain. So now, the poor people were really angry. So, they decided that they would ask the king for some reform. So with the king desperate, he decided to take a meeting. So the king was Louis the 16th currently. Let's talk about the king's backstory for a little bit. After the king's grandfather, Louis the 15th, who also served as a king, died from a pox virus that was spread largely around the world, however, was not named accordingly. What do you think that pox virus was? What was it?
Tuberculosis.
That's not even a pox. That's not...
Smallpox.
Yeah, smallpox. After Louis the 15th died from smallpox, Louis the 16th became the new king. He was promoted from Prince Louis Capet to Louis the 16th. By the way, his father was not a king. He was a Dauphin, which is some fancy French word that I don't know the definition of yet. Anyways, so Louis the 16th was now in danger because he was easily swayed and his position was in danger from all the angry poor people. So he called a meeting with the Estates General. What do you guys think the Estates General was? Excuse me, Alex Rodriguez, raise your hand. And what do you think it was?
So the Louis XVI met with the clergy, and he met with the nobility, and he met with the poor people.
Oh, so you think the Estates General is just a mix of the three estates?
Yes.
Professor, I have
Do you object? Do you object to that idea?
No, the States General was the legislative body of France up until the French Revolution.
He tells the Google, Professor.
Was it made I'm pretty sure that's the definitive Google definition. By the way, this is something you won't find on Google. What was the Estates General made up of?
It was made of the clergy, the nobility.
Okay, he's searching up. He's looking at the computer.
Yeah, boo him, Professor. Yeah, that's right.
That did not work.
And expel him from your class. No, not physically, Professor.
Excuse me, but you are expelled. Now stop leaning forward in your chair, or I will tip that thing over.
That's right.
You're going to fall face first on your damn keyboard. Anyways, the States General was basically a mix of the three classes. So, Louis the 16th eventually decided he needed a voting system
Voting system. Yep.
for people to cast their votes. However, this voting system
It's funny.
wasn't exactly fair. How was it not fair? Well, let's see. The clergy, Where's our pyramid? The clergy was 130,000 people. They got one vote. The nobility was 360,000 people.
One vote.
You would imagine they had 3 votes, but they have one vote. And this guy, the 98% of the population, one vote.
Imagine they have 100 votes.
No, they have one vote.
Yep.
So, one vote, one vote, one vote. However, Third Estate was pretty unhappy with this new system. Why do you think that was? You're expelled.
They don't have enough representation in government.
Wrong answer. Because they found that the upper 2 estates would always outvote any attempt at reform
That's
in
right.
the States General.
So yes, so about 300 or 400,000 people.
Yeah, so the upper 2 estates would always vote in favor of imposing bad things
On 27 million people.
on the Third Estate, which is 27 million people. And when the Third Estate would be opposed, but the 2 estates would outvote the Third Estate. And when the Third Estate tried to impose things on the First and Second Estate, they found that they were the only one in favor, and that there were the 2 people opposed. So, the clergy and nobility always outvoted any attempt at reform. So, they decided they'd do one better, revolution. So, how did they do this? Well, first, since they were 98% of the population, they obviously formed their own government. Next, they formed their own militia, military, which they called the Bourgeois militia. Is that how it's pronounced?
Bourgeois.
Bourgeois militia,
Like
which
that.
translates to the National Guard. And their new government was called the National Assembly. However, the king was kind of mad. So, what do you think the king did about this revolution? Yes?
Kill them.
Wrong answer. He locked them out of their own building.
Tennis court rules.
Sort of? Not really. He locked them out of their own building. However, right down the road, they found another building that was indeed a tennis court. You got that part right. There was a tennis court that was fully unlocked, and they could go inside and do whatever they want. And on June 20th, 1789, these people took an oath that they would keep returning to this place until the king gave in to their demands. And so, now the National Assembly was born. However, the National Assembly also included some a bit radical members. You know, in the sea of normalcy, there's got to be a little bit of radicality, okay? There's got to be a little bit of radicality. And that radicality came in the form of members of the National Assembly like, what was it called? Yeah, Maximilian Robespierre.
What is his name?
And George Danton.
Who are they?
They were a little crazy members of the National Assembly. And they went on to form their own part of the National Assembly. They called the Jacobin Club. Some members from the First and the Second Estate even joined their cause. Ignore what I just did. Anyways, now, the Jacobin Club was even more radical. While the moderates in the National Assembly just wanted the king's power, they just wanted the king's power to be removed. These people didn't want the king's power removed. They wanted the king's head removed. They wanted the king killed.
That's illegal, officer.
Well, this is a revolution, and there's not really much the police can do to stop you from killing the king if there's a lot of you there. The police are not 98% of the population. I will throw a dart at your hand if you keep doing this.
Who is that?
Albert. Excuse me. Please, can the principal please expel him?
Okay, get out.
Get out!
Alright, Professor, do you want to stop the that one today?
A little bit.
Little bit, okay, a
Okay.
little bit more, okay.
So, now, these people wanted to kill the king. So, what is wrong with you? Anyways, what did these people do right now? The National Assembly was still mostly in charge. So, the National Assembly decided that they would riot. Millions of women, 7,000 women, went parading. Oh, no, I don't think that's that point at the story yet. So, these people just thought that Louis the 16th couldn't see the problem. So, they started arming themselves up to bourgeois militia. They went to a military hospital and got their big guns. Then, they went to a symbol of evil, the Bastille, a large prison for the people who didn't comply with the king. And Governor Delaunay, who was in charge, was asked to get out and hand over all the gunpowder. He was like, "Hell no!" And so they chopped his head off, put it on a pike, and paraded to Versailles. Anyway. Anyway, the king just couldn't see the problem. Of course, he was a pikehead deity. The people were so endorsed with him that they were parading the pikehead deity around the city. Of course, right? This is what you do. And anyways, the people thought Louis the 16th couldn't see the problem. He was a full 20 miles away from his subjects. So, a crowd of 7,000 women decided they'd parade to Versailles. And millions of men from the Dorda states joined on the way. And they stormed the palace with a bit of the bourgeois militia, and they fought against the French guard of the king. Some of the crowd even tried to kill the queen, Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette was narrowly escaped, and King Louis' room was stormed. And so, King Louis had to get on the good side of the revolution. So, he had to accept everything that the revolution gave to him. All the rules that were imposed on him. And those were rules that also were imposed weird things, not really weird things, bad things on, people like the clergy and nobility. Now, there was one certain Jean-Paul Marat who decided he decided that he would write a newspaper to make these people even more angry. What do you think would get even crazier about him?
Who? About who?
About Jean-Paul Marat.
Oh, I don't even know his name, Professor.
Jean-Paul Marat.
How do you spell his name?
Hey, don't spell it, you'll Google it.
Oh, I know what's gonna happen.
What?
He's gonna go to the guillotine.
Wrong answer.
He published his views in pamphlets, placards, and newspapers, and then he was assassinated due to his stat wounds.
Shut up. By the way, he was assassinated, but we get to that later. Jean-Paul Marat.
They killed him before he died?
No, all of that was not even the point. He was he had a skin condition that kept him confined to a damn bathtub. A bathtub.
What's wrong with you?
He had a skin condition.
Oh, yeah, he was the one who was asking people to guillotine people.
Yeah, sort of. But Robespierre was more crazy with the guillotine.
Yeah,
so.
but he was the writer.
Yeah, he was the writer of the newspaper, The Friend of the People, that made the people, ironically, be more scared and angry. Not really the friend of the people, is he? And then he was assassinated by a certain Charlotte Corday. But we get to that later. Anyways, there's now Louis XVI was forced to obey the revolution. However, since his wife Marie Antoinette was an Austrian duchess, they decided to dress up as familiar-looking servants and get away from France and ride to Austria. However, they were stopped near the eastern border of France, where somebody questioned them and said they looked familiar. Then the passport was seen, and it was the king's passport. So he was quickly deported back to Paris. And now everybody knew his lack of support for the revolution. So people started calling him a straight-up traitor. And remember, this is only in Paris. People started calling him a traitor and started getting angry at him. And now the Jacobin Club was furious. So one month after the Marie Antoinette and crew decided to skedaddle away to Austria, the Jacobin Club decided Georges Danton performed a riot. And this riot was very exposing of the two sides of the revolution. Because the riot was becoming too destructive. So what do you think the revolutionaries did?
Chop their head off.
Wrong answer. The Jacobin Club was rioting. However, the National Assembly of Moderates sent in the National Guard to shoot down Georges Danton.
Professor, isn't that what I said?
No!
Isaiah, can you finish it, baby? Oh, I'm sorry, Professor, can you finish it?
1 minute. Okay. So, 1 minute. So now, this exposed a deep division between the two sides of the revolution. The moderates and the radicals. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time on the French Revolution.